Since my videos tend to be a little plain, I doodle on the guitar for a few seconds before each one now, so here's what you get today. Hey folks, this is Luke with Flat Earth Consequences, and today there was something that I've been thinking about I wanted to share. Let's talk about 4 words: proof, evidence, understanding, and belief. So let's start with the definition to make sure we're all on the same page here. Proof is something that is evidence to demonstrate that something exists or is true. Okay? It establishes fact. For example, they might say, give me proof of your ID. Okay? Everyone's been asked for their ID, so we know what proof means. Understanding is the ability to comprehend. It has nothing to do with proof or evidence. It has to do with comprehension. And belief is acceptance of a statement or a claim, or that something exists based on the proof and evidence that you understand. So with regards to this non-spherical world we live on, a lot of people, we know they mock the subject. We know that they have a hard time even really engaging in the subject to sit down and watch a video because it's so absurd. Because of what they believe, because of what they think they understand as a result of the evidence and proof they were given by the people in places of authority like education and government agencies like NASA. But, so what happens when you look at evidence or proof that you understand and you comprehend what it means, and your belief is supported by it, but when you look at that evidence and proof and then you realize it's not true? Now what you've done is you've taken the support out from underneath of what you believe, and now you're stuck believing something with no support. Should you keep believing something once the evidence has been proven false? Do you care about the truth enough to stop subscribing to a certain train of thought that you've been indoctrinated with once the evidence that led you to believe it is demonstrably falsified? Okay? The answer is a lot of people can't do that. The idea that they would have to abandon a belief that they hold so dear is just too much to bear, so they don't even want to consider looking at the evidence. And we're not even talking about the evidence to the contrary. We're not talking about looking at evidence that necessarily would assert a different claim. We're talking about re-examining the evidence that their current beliefs are based on. People who believe that the earth is a ball orbiting around the sun, we're taught the same thing all of us were. I was taught the same thing. And you know what? When you find out something's not true, it's really frustrating. The more so, depending on how much you paid for school. How many of you still owe 30 grand student loans like me? It's ridiculous. It's more frustrating then. But back to my point. So we all were taught the same thing. We all believed the same thing. Nobody grew up believing that the earth was the center of creation. Most people were taught since they were old enough to point at a country on a globe and say, this is where I live. What, 3rd grade maybe? 2nd, kindergarten? So this video is about how evidence should affect your belief system. You know, if you've never seen anything related, let's just imagine this is the first time you've seen anything relating to the flat earth. model. Okay, have you seen the evidence of the videos that NASA has released with air bubbles coming out of their spacesuits while they're doing a spacewalk? Have you seen the spacewalk videos where you see somebody with a scuba tank and a flipper in a window? Have you seen the images of astronauts doing spacewalks in space with the reflection of the guy holding the camera wearing scuba gear? Have you seen the swimming pool with the life-size mock-ups of the space station in it at the Buoyancy Lab in perfectly clear water surrounded by cameramen in scuba gear? Have you seen astronauts on a green screen performing some maneuver that is interestingly and almost identical to an actual release of them playing with a ball of water floating around in the space station while they're talking about something? Have you seen those? Have you looked at the moon landing with scrutiny? Anyone who's used a leaf blower knows that you disturb the dirt when you blow air into it, and your shoes get dirty. So when you look at NASA's photos of the lander on the moon, which landed sitting on a vertical thrust rocket of how many thousands of pounds thrust, I don't know, and it didn't leave a mark in the dirt. It didn't blow dirt on the landing gear. It didn't disturb that soil. Do you really buy that? A person who's looking for the truth and or even thinks they really have a pretty good beat on things shouldn't be threatened by listening to somebody else's evidence or listening to somebody cross-examine the evidence that they've already accepted to support a belief system. You see, comprehension is usually not the problem, but it is the problem if you refuse to look at something because you don't want to comprehend it, because then it gives you cognitive dissonance and it's painful, and then you have to reevaluate your belief system. So if you haven't seen these things, I'll make it easy for you. On my Flat Earth Consequences YouTube channel that you're watching right now, look at my playlists, not my videos, and look at the one called Proponents Playlist. It is the best assembly of videos that will give you the 101 on this model and really re-examine all the evidence that you and I were taught in school. And if you don't think that that evidence was fraudulent, well, right next to it is another playlist called Frauds. Look at what's in that. Maybe there's 10 or 15 videos, I can't remember. Look at what's in that. And then if you want to say, okay, I'm listening, go to the next playlist, and it's full of what I call proofs. And it's an assembly of videos that discuss the things that support this new paradigm that is in opposition to the globe heliocentric Earth revolving around the sun model that we were all taught in school. But anybody who has a belief system so fragile that they refuse to engage evidence that they perceive might lead them in a direction that would cause them to have to readjust their thinking, they have a hard time looking at this stuff. So that was my point. And you know, if you went to the bank to cash a check and you showed them ID and it was a fake ID and they knew it was a fake ID, would you be able to cash your check? Clearly not. And if you believe what you were taught in school based on the instruction that you received, right, that you understood, you comprehended what they were telling you, but you never scrutinized the evidence. And if somebody said, let's re-examine this evidence, and you discovered that that evidence was fake, could you still cash that check knowing that the evidence, the proof was fake? Proof of ID necessary to cash a check. Proof of all the things they taught you in school not necessary to believe that the earth is a ball. Think about that, folks. I had a lady the other day I was talking to vehemently oppose me with rather nonsensical argument that it's so obvious that the earth is round and conspiracy theorists are crazy. And in her case, she has a strong belief system, but I don't think she really even understood what I was saying or why she believes what she believes so well, other than she's seen so many pictures it can't be a lie. It's interesting to see how little evidence it takes for some people to be convinced of something, but then how difficult it is to demonstrate to them that what they were taught isn't true. It's crazy. It's crazy. But if you have never looked at this subject, you owe it to yourself to just check it out. And you know what? If when you look at it, you detect that it's all a bunch of baloney, more power to you. Then your belief system is reinforced. But if you look at it and it actually brings your belief system into question, look at it some more. And not only will you question what you should believe, you'll begin to question those who taught you to believe it and gave you all of that fake evidence. Right? And that was my thought for the day. So check out the videos. And, by the way, for those of you people who already are on board, you know exactly what I'm talking about with this. Looking at the evidence is just the beginning. And then you got to get your head around it and understand it. And then you have to sit and go, I can't believe what I used to believe anymore. Wow. It's quite a process. Some people it's longer, some people it takes longer. Some people it's pretty quick, actually. But nonetheless, it's a mental trip. So I invite you to go on that trip and check this out, because it really is worth looking at. And nothing quite so strange as to find out that the world you live on is not what you thought. Have a great day, folks. This is Luke, Flat Earth Consequences. Share this if you like it. Bye.